Friday, October 13th, 2023, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So it's an interesting date. I'm aware, Friday the 13th. And the other interesting thing that about this date is that it was originally in October as well. That's when the Knights Templars were rounded up by the King of France in 1307. Knights Templars had been fighting for a few hundred years out in the Middle East, exactly where we're having all the troubles today. And it's a bit ironic, I would say. And today, though, I want to talk a little bit about China. And you might ask, what's China got to do with what's going on in Israel and Gaza? That's the important focus. Well, I'll let you know in a minute. Before I do, though, I've just been watching BBC News. Yes, they have it here in Turkey in the room on the TV. And they keep saying that everything we talk about is verified and the truth. But be as it may, yeah, it's interesting. We are a week after, really, almost a week after this war kicked off. And now the Israelis are giving about just over 1 million Palestinians 24 hours to leave their homes. I think it's somewhere in the northern Gaza Strip to get out of there. I mean, that's, in my opinion, an impossibility. These people are, it's not like they have cars or there's a Palestinian Airlines that can fly them off somewhere. I mean, we'll see what happens. And before we go into China and what I'm thinking here, just wanted to let you know I had a chat with a friend of mine from London. It's a guy that I went to London to work with over 30 years ago, and his family has a relationship to this region, and he's always very guarded, and he was guarded, but he said a lot of the Muslims are rounding up. They're mobilizing, not countries, but Muslims, like in other countries, to go and help the Palestinians. So that's something to keep in mind. I saw that Blinken went over to Israel. He said that he's going to support Israel. At the same time, he's trying to go over to other countries and to try to stop spreading this conflict. Will he succeed? I'm not too sure. And that's why I wanted to talk about China. There's been a lot of talk, of course, over the last 12 months or more that China wants to invade Taiwan. Of course, the Chinese say they don't, and they have, I guess, a fairly good relationship with Taiwan. But be as it may, the stuff that people tell us, government officials tell us, for public consumption, be it in the United States, in the UK, or China, is completely different, I would say, from their underlying goals. So when I was speaking to my friend yesterday evening, he said if this escalates the situation in the Middle East, you could see China go after Taiwan. And they might not even go directly after Taiwan, but they might increase their presence there in the waters surrounding Taiwan. And if the US and the UK are occupied with a major conflict in the Middle East, it's possible that China could take the opportunity to basically get control of Taiwan, and that's where we'd come to U.S. treasuries and what happened to Russia, and maybe that's why China has been accumulating so much gold in the last 11 months. And you might say, well, they only have over 2,000 tons now. Well, I think they have a lot more, and they're accumulating probably even more than we know about through their state-owned enterprises. But the other different thing they've been doing in the last 11 months, the People's Bank of China, is that they've been reporting how much gold they're buying every month. Prior to that, they used to come out every 3-4 years to update their holdings. And we know as well that countries like Poland and others, Singapore has, I think, increased their reserves massively this year. So what's that got to do with anything? Well, it was Alan Greenspan who said years ago that I think it was at the Council on Foreign Relations. Someone asked him about gold, and he said, "Well, in the time of extremis, in the time of extremis, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. It's not extremes, but extremis. And what does extremis mean? Well, it's the time that we're living today. We seem to get a major crisis every 6 to 12 months, ever since 2020. And I think this crisis right now, this war, is one of those. And gold is going to become more and more important. And the Chinese know that. They learned a lesson about Russia. Of course, Russia's reserves were frozen by the Western central banks, I think $300 to $400 billion worth. And maybe that's why the Chinese have been disposing of some of their treasuries, or not renewing, or not buying, I guess when they roll, they get paid. Let's say they have a bond that matures in October of 2023. Let's say they have $50 billion worth of it, and they get paid in cash. They're taking that and buying gold. They're not like reinvesting it. And also, of course, the price of treasury. Some argue that their holdings have gone down because the value of their treasuries has gone down. But I think they've been selling as well. And now I'm going to jump back into history. World War II. Switzerland was neutral, of course, during World War II. They had $200 million worth of their reserves frozen for the duration of the war by the United States. 200 million doesn't seem a lot today, but back then it was a lot, $200 million. Yeah, and I know the Bank for International Settlements, which is like a supranational institution, it was based in Switzerland, and they did do business. All the warring factions did business together. But Switzerland itself, the country, their reserves were frozen. Yes, they let them have it again after the end of the war. So, and it was neutral. So a country like China now, with this opportunity here, while everyone's focusing in the Ukraine, Middle East, and everything's kicking off, they could very well start flexing their muscles. I'm not even saying they're going to invade Taiwan, flexing their muscles in that region. And the US and the UK would have a tough time doing anything about it. But they could, of course, freeze their assets. And I think that's a big possibility. And that would kill a few birds with one stone. The first one would be the Chinese wouldn't be able to sell those treasuries. So it would stabilize the price of treasuries. They could do it to other countries as well, the Americans. The second one is that it would make it more difficult for China to trade internationally. Hence, that's why I think China and the other BRICS countries or other global South countries have been accelerating the process of an alternative through payment systems, through bilateral trade, paying their own currencies. So yes, it would make it difficult for China, but I think they're ready for it. And what would be Well, the third, I think, unfortunately, it would give the U.S. an excuse to maybe declare war on China, which is, well, then we're up to World War III, and I don't want to talk too much about that because I wish there won't be a World War III. I wish that the problems in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, I wish that they're solved very quickly, but for some reason I don't think they will be. So there are all these repercussions, and apart from that, everything is so uncertain. There's so many factors that I hate to speculate on anything. So let's go back to the markets now. I saw that the CPI data came out yesterday. It was expected to drop from 3.7 year on year to 3.6, but it stayed at 3.7. The month-on-month rise was expected at 0.3, but it was at 0.4. So the number was a little higher than expected, and we saw treasury yields rise. I think yesterday morning when I was speaking, the 10-year yield was at 4.55. I think it went back up to 4.70 yesterday. We saw the 2-year jump about 9 basis points. Overnight, though, as I speak here, and it's 5:40 a.m. London time, 7:40 local time in Turkey. 10-year yield is back down to 4.67, so it's down about 4 basis points, and the 2-year is back down to 5.04. So what I'm trying to say here is that I think geopolitics, war, is going to affect treasuries a lot more. Hence, it's going to affect the markets a lot more. And QE could be up one of the options again if everything escalates in terms of the conflict in Israel and Palestine. And yeah, I think this deadline of 24 hours to move just over 1 million people is pretty much impossible. I mean, unless the U.S. Navy gathered all these vessels and also merchant vessels and helped the Palestinians off the Gaza Strip onto vessels. But I don't see them doing that. They're not there for that. I don't think that's their goal. That's what I would be thinking of, doing everything to help those people to get out of there. But where do you take them? It's not that easy to move just over 1 million people in 24 hours. It's ridiculous, I think. But I think this could trigger a lot of anger in the region and a lot of anger from the Muslim countries and Muslim people around the world. So let's quickly look at the markets right now. As I said, it's 7:42 a.m. Turkish time, so we're 7 hours ahead of New York. Spot gold, I saw we got up to 1887. It did come off yesterday a little bit, but it's still relatively strong. I saw the dollar rallied strongly versus the major European currencies like the pound and the euro. The pound dropped over 1.3%. Right now, gold is up $7 at 1876, right near the highs. The low's been 67. Silver is up 16 cents, trading just below 22. The high's been 22. The low's been 79. Dow futures is up 41. Nasdaq is up 10, and the S&P futures up 4. So fairly quiet. To the currencies, we're seeing a little bit of a rebound. Sterling is up a quarter at 122.03. The euro as well, up about 0.2 at 105.46. And yeah, the dollar's down slightly versus the yen at 149.63. Dollars down slightly versus the yuan at 730. And talking about China, yeah, another thing that would be massively, of course, impacted would be all the supply chains, all the goods that we get from China, not just final goods, but goods that are used to produce other things like intermediary goods. Can you imagine if there is a conflict and China gets involved and they freeze their assets? The world's gonna be a mess, unfortunately, and let's hope that doesn't happen. Quickly look at crude oil. That's up 0.8 at 82.66. That's WTI. Brent is up 2/3 at just below 86. And let's quickly check the other currencies here before we sign off. Just waiting for it to load. It's a little slower, the Wi-Fi here. Aussie dollar is up 0.2 at 63.24. Let's see the dollar Canadian, if I can find it here. Yeah, that's unchanged, 136.82. And the Kiwi dollar is down about 0.2 at 59.16. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day and a very good weekend. Of course, I'm not doing the Mike and Mario show today, but I'm going to try to do a live stream on Sunday. Maybe try to get Rafi on, but I can't guarantee anything because the Wi-Fi here, I don't know if I'd be able to connect with him on Zoom, but we'll have to see. So, yep, take care everyone. Again, have a great weekend. Bye.